One of the key measures in the Employment Rights Act is around the ending of so-called exploitative 0 hours contracts. Now, there's a lot of confusion around what this actually means, and actually a lot of the regulation associated with the Act is yet to be defined or passed, and probably won't come in until 2027, although that date is not clear at the moment. In principle, what the Act currently describes is the idea that employers will have the obligation to offer their teams or their employees contracts with a set of guaranteed hours. So this particularly affects people on so-called 0 hours contracts and also low hours contracts as well. So anyone that works on a contract where they don't have guaranteed hours, or indeed work on a contract where they have guaranteed low number of hours but in reality are working more than that. And the idea of this is to stop a sort of a one-sided flexibility where employers can define how much an employee works, but they don't have the flexibility going the other direction. So what this will mean in practice is that any employees that are operating via a 0 hours or low hours contract will have the right to take a certain number of guaranteed hours based on a qualifying period, probably likely to be 12 weeks, and employers will have to offer that to them based on that qualifying period. There are a lot of questions and concerns about this because we know certainly within something like social care, which has quite significant fluctuating seasonal demands and also fluctuating demands of care from your customers, whether that's within a care home or a home care environment, how these guaranteed hours will fit into that. Another part of this legislation is that employers will have to give employees a fair notice of any shift cancellations. So if demands change, let's say a resident no longer requires care and a shift needs to be cancelled, there will be a period of time before that shift that the worker will have to be notified, otherwise the worker will have to be paid for that shift. So what's the impact of this? Well, particularly in domiciliary care, which has a very high proportion of 0 hours or low hours contracts, it's going to really fundamentally change the way that some of these businesses operate. And again, particularly in domiciliary care, when it comes to things like cancelled shifts, it's very common for local authorities or commissioners to cancel the requirement for care for someone from a care provider. And at the moment, that care provider won't be reimbursed if that visit is cancelled by the local authority. So the care provider will be on the hook for the employee to pay them for the shift when they weren't getting paid for it themselves. There's another thing another impact it's going to have is around agency staff and bank staff. And ultimately, the obligation for the agencies to offer guaranteed hours to their workforce will end up being reflected on the employers themselves. So agency staff will almost certainly become more expensive. The models of staff banks, which are becoming increasingly popular within the care sector, will also become harder and more expensive to run. And care providers are going to have much better systems around recording and analysing the hours that people work, and then being proactive around how they offer guaranteed hours to those teams.